Hello viewers and welcome back once again for this interesting stakeholder outreach initiative by P3 World Council. Though we are all going through a lockdown phase globally, everywhere it's a lockdown, people are confined to their homes, we are glad enough and we feel happy that we are taking you around the world, giving you the pulse of the world markets, what is happening globally in different parts of, in different continents basically. We started off with Maldives, we went to Latin America in Colombia, our next interview was in Africa, then we went to the US, and now after that we went to a Central Asian country called Kazakhstan, and today we are in a beautiful country called as Uzbekistan. Central Asia, ladies and gentlemen, as I described in my previous conversation, it acts as a crossroad for Europe and for the entire Asia. In the past few years, Central Asia has gained prominence in regards to trade and business. And the countries of Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan are proving and they are giving new hopes for business and for trade in the coming days. When I talk about Uzbekistan and seeing the developments in the past few years, couple of years rather, in context to specific PPP projects, the country has shown phenomenal progress. The projects that they have announced, the way they are progressing, it is something that we all need to look on and learn something or gain some values or learnings that can be applied to elsewhere projects on PPPs. To discuss all this, we have with us today Mr. Bahodir Amonov, who is a senior PPP specialist from Uzbekistan, and he would be sharing with us perspectives. He is a finance expert, and he would be sharing with us his perspectives about PPPs in Uzbekistan. Welcome, Bahodir.
Thank you so much. Actually, it's my pleasure to be here and giving a bit outlook of the PPP market in Uzbekistan. Thank you.
All right. Viewers, before we begin with the conversation, let me first give you a brief introduction about Bahodir. Bahodir is an investment consultant at IPAC Yoli Financial Advisory, where he works as a part of the consulting team who provides services in project development and management to international companies who are interested in investing in the infrastructure projects and PPPs in Uzbekistan. He has his previous work experience includes public-private partnerships agency under the Ministry of Finance, where he worked for 1.5 years, where he was fortunate enough to participate in initial steps of the establishment of PPPs in Uzbekistan and was responsible for the coordination of PPP projects in the transport and energy sectors, which are key sectors, from the PPP agency side. In regards to his academic qualifications, Bahodir has a bachelor's degree in economics with finance from the Westminster International University in Tashkent. So that's what the experience of Bahodir is, and my objective from this interview would be to gain as much as possible to understand the investment outlook of Uzbekistan in context to PPP projects. Well, Bahodir, let's begin with the interview, and one question that is of concern for everyone, and definitely everyone is interested to understand, is to know the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the entire business environment in Uzbekistan. So can you just briefly highlight how has business got impacted in Uzbekistan because of the corona pandemic?
So actually, it was tough not only for Uzbekistan. I think it was tough for all of the countries around the world. And some people compare this current crisis, saying that it's the worst crisis since Great Depression, while others say it's even worse. Well, in case of Uzbekistan, we experienced already two total lockdowns and infected cases of over 38,000. Surely it was not the best year so far. So coming back to your question, I would say, yeah, I mean, in general, business sector was hurt badly, especially, I would say all of the sectors of the economy were hurt bad. But I think if name a few of them, I would say that tourism, transport, education, health, and the oil and gas sectors were the sectors which were hurt actually worse than others.
Okay. Okay, okay. Bahodir, with regards to the pandemic, that what you mentioned is correct. I mean, it is actually being compared to the impact that the Great Depression had in the past. And tourism is one sector that every country is affected. Within Uzbekistan is a beautiful
Exactly.
country, and definitely tourism is one of the major sources of revenue. However, when I say this, there is something which I mean, not only me, but many PPP practitioners or people are interested to understand that though all these things are happening, yet Uzbekistan is taking and making good progress in regards to PPP projects. So my question is to understand what are the driving factors for such growth and such adaptability, or such the adoption that is being seen on PPP projects in Uzbekistan. So what are the driving factors you would comment on?
So I think there are several factors that are affecting the government to make decision to expand portfolio of PPP projects. But if I name a few of them, I think the first would be that the government is trying to use PPPs, in my opinion, trying to use PPP as a fiscal expansionary tool,
Mm-hmm.
so that during especially during in crisis times. So
Mm-hmm.
infrastructure, constructing building infrastructure means that people will have people will have jobs, they will be employed, they will have salary, so that will give effect so that the economic activity will work again.
Mm-hmm.
So secondly, Uzbekistan has massive infrastructure needs
Okay.
in healthcare, transport, energy, education, just name them. So
Okay.
I think it's one more reason why the need for infrastructure grew, and the PPPs are implementing more and more day by day.
Mm-hmm.
So to meet the infrastructure needs of the government, so that it will boost the stable economic growth.
Okay.
So certainly, from financing perspective, we see that uh, traditional procurement is actually a burden to the state budget. So PPPs, while if you do the PPPs, so you pay the private partner only once the project will be operational, right? So during the construction, you don't have to pay. It's a obligation of the private partner, private partner. So it's a from this perspective, it's a good opportunity for the government to use this opportunity, because we see that a lot of international companies, very large multinational companies, are expressing their interest in
Yes.
infrastructure, especially in PPPs. So
Mm-hmm.
uh, we, the government is using what is available on the market. So
Got
yeah.
it, got it. But Bahudir, one thing I would want to ask you is definitely what you mentioned. I agree with your points that the demand for infrastructure. When you mention infrastructure, there are different parts that are there are different aspects that you're talking about. Well, this demand or need for infrastructure is felt across everywhere, but one thing that I would want you to, from your personal analysis, I would want you to comment on is that, is there something, I mean, is the PPP agency or is the political establishment doing something different that is making the Uzbekistan attract so much PPP projects? Is there something, what different is it doing? I mean, if you can comment on that, because the need is felt by many. Basically, if you get to any country, go to any developed country as well, go to the US as well, I mean, they also have needs. But the announcement of projects and the way they are happening, I mean, I'm sure there would be some best practice, I can rather call it as, one or two that you would like to highlight upon. Do you feel, are there any?
Yeah. So actually, it's a very good question, and I think there are several reasons to answer your question. First
Mm,
of all, I think the Uzbekistan. I mean, majority of investors are already informed about the ongoing reforms in Uzbekistan, and they are
mm,
giving hope for the Uzbekistan. So Uzbekistan historically was a bit more likely a closed country, but since it has vast amounts of natural resources, and its potential is actually great. So
mhm.
investors are looking on Uzbekistan from different perspective, because as you see, there are a lot of reforms going on, and the country is opening up, and we see that we have a lot of, we have a portfolio of very bankable projects.
Okay.
This is another reason why investors are keeping an eye on Uzbekistan. Moreover, we are having a trust of international financial institutions or multilateral development banks, as you said, like
Correct.
World Bank, Asian Development Bank, European Bank of Reconstruction and Development. So just name them. I mean, all of them are concentrated on Uzbekistan. So
Mhm.
Uzbekistan is also doing its best to meet their requirements. So I think
Okay.
the combination of all of these factors are making Uzbekistan to be one of the hotspots for investments.
But then my question again would be on this is, you mentioned two important factors Uzbekistan about the projects, Bahodir. One is you mentioned that the projects in Uzbekistan are bankable. That's A. B, you mentioned is that the projects, or rather the entire business environment, is trustworthy in the eyes of international financial institutions. So my question
Yes.
is, as per you and your experience, since you have worked with the PPP agency also before this, what makes a project bankable? I mean, you would have certainly worked, because your introduction, I just mentioned that since the inception stages you were there with the PPP agency. So what is it that you feel that makes a PPP projects bankable? Now, when you mentioned that, okay, the projects are bankable, so can you highlight on the factors that make the projects bankable?
So it really depends on the sector we are talking about. So we have so far a best experience, I think, in energy sector, since where the
Mm-hmm.
government is doing several energy related PPP projects.
Mm-hmm.
If we concentrate on them, for example, all
Mm-hmm.
of those energy projects are backed up by international financial institutions. So IFIs are ready to give loans for the private partner in case, I mean, there will be some winning bidder. So that means that the project itself is backed up by the IFIs, which will give the investor a sense of bankability in regard to the
Okay.
project.
Mm-hmm.
Moreover, the government is, I mean, there is a guarantee that we are working, I mean, the government is working on the type of guarantee that for any project, this IFI, particular IFI will give a guarantee to the private partner, while this guarantee will backed up by the Minister of Finance. I mean,
Okay.
there is the whole system which is working.
I understand.
Uh, so yeah, so moreover, we are seeing that there is a high demand for infrastructure projects, like for
Mm-hmm.
example, for energy. Any investor coming and learning the market, they're seeing that in coming 10 years, GDP of the country is expected to grow at least by double size. So that means if you relate it, I mean, there is an actual econometric correlation between the GDP and the demand for energy, which means that since, I mean, if there is a possibility that the GDP will grow double size, that
Mm-hmm.
means energy demand for energy will
Absolutely.
increase by double as well.
That's
So
correlated. Yeah.
based on the so it's interrelation. Whether the GDP grows, demand for energy, or demand for energy drives the GDP growth. So it depends. So moreover, a recent study done by the Mott McDonald showed that there is a need at least for 30 gigawatts of additional generation capacities.
Mm.
I mean, through foreign direct investments.
Okay.
So the government is currently, I mean, within this capacity, there is also renewable sector, which is
Mm.
consisting a significant part of it, like
Correct.
5 gigawatts of solar energy and 3 gigawatts of wind energy. So the government is actively working with IFC, the World Bank, and AGB and EBRD as well on those to meet these uh, energy targets.
One thing, what your answer, when I dissect the answer that you've given me, one thing that I am getting from it is that the government is playing a very active role, Bahodir. That's what I'm understanding, in offering a stable environment for investors. That's what, the message
Exactly.
that is going out, and that is something very important. One just a point that I would like to share with our viewers, since on this interview, is political willpower, or the stability that is offered by the government to the outside world or to the investors. That is something which is one of the important driving factors. How you project the country, what are the geopolitical developments, those carry an important role. Basically, what Bahodir mentioned is correct. The guarantee given by the Ministry of Finance to international institutions, that plays a major role in regards to building the trust and the bankability in the PPP projects. And that's a very important learning, Bahodir, you shared. Thank you for that. My next question is, I mean, that's a very important and a very common as well. That when it comes to the regional dynamics of Uzbekistan, can you just share with us briefly what are the major challenges and issues the PPP projects in general face out there?
Uh, it's actually a two-side question, I would say.
Hmm.
From I mean, if you look from the outside, you can see there's some project problems related with bureaucracy or lack of coordination between the ministries. You just name them, but actually having an experience working within the government structure, I know how it's tough for the government as well to make the decisions. I
Yeah.
mean, as for someone outside, it may seem that the system is very bureaucratic and decision making is taking a lot of time, but in
Yeah.
reality, it may not be the case. So, I mean, there is a lot of complex information exchanges happening within the government. So, it's not always easy to make a decision, because government officials should consider any decision from a lot of perspectives. So, if
Hmm.
one minister is authorized to make decision in terms of finance, the other one in technical terms, and the other one in legal terms. So combination of all of this and making a single decision is not always the easiest thing to do. But in general, I think that there are some still there are some may exist some problems with coordination, because between
Okay.
the government organizations. So
Okay.
but there are some, I mean, there are reasons for that. So
Yeah.
I don't know, I mean, if I can name it as a obstacle or the problem or issue,
Hmm.
but working in there and experiencing all of these issues on myself, I can't say them as a issue that should be solved in one day. But
Yeah.
I mean, it takes a lot of time. So
Hmm.
PPP agency, or the concept of PPP, was introduced only like 2 years ago at most,
Yes.
not even 2 years. It's one year and 8 9 months. So it's
Hmm.
relatively new sector, and the agency, PPP agency, is relatively new. So establishment of the contacts with other relevant ministries takes time. It
Correct.
takes time for government officials as well to be experienced in PPP. So
Hmm.
that, I mean, if you look to the international experience for other countries, it took like 5 to 10 years at least to be more or less uh, good at PPPs. While if you look to the in Uzbekistan's case, in 2 years there have been so much done in PPP. So
Hmm.
I think that they're doing pretty good at so far.
Correct.
So
No, absolutely.
problems arise. Yeah, there are some sectors for improvement, like I said, coordination, maybe there might be bureaucracy, but they are not the major issues that can be solved in one day. So the government is working
No,
on them.
absolutely.
So I mean, yeah, so
No, one thing that you mentioned, Bahodir, I mean, it's a fairly new agency. It's a fairly new aspect of PPPs that Uzbekistan is into. Progress that has been made is definitely commendable. And what you mentioned about bureaucratic decision making delay, I always term it as it will take certain amount of time till certain standard procedures are established, after which the decision making would certainly see improvement. But initially,
yeah.
seeing, I mean, it will take some time till procedures are established. You understand what are the loopholes, where they need to be closed, and it will take some time. But definitely they can be classified as of now as challenges, wherein it hampers the outlook for private sector participation or for international stakeholders as well. Well, Bahudir, my next question to you is to understand. I mean, you have played a dual role. Now, when I say dual, I want to say that you have been with the PPP agency since its inception. You've seen its growth. How is it as an agency? Now you're working with a financial advisory firm as a PPP consultant or a PPP specialist. Now, my question, the reason I'm asking this is because I want to understand how is the investment outlook for Uzbekistan? How do you see it as? your preliminary comments on that, please.
Uh, Actually, I would say that investment, I mean, the potential of the government, as I mentioned already, is huge.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I mean, we see that there's a large demand for infrastructure project, which
Okay.
needs additional a lot of foreign investors, and we see that capital market is being developed at the same time. So
Mhm.
we are trying to be, the government is trying to develop a financial market as well.
Mhm.
So in general, I see that we established some goals by 2030, 2030, and we are working to meet those targets. And in the targets, you can easily see that the government is striving and trying its best uh, to to attract as much uh, foreign investment as possible. So for investors, yeah, I mean, it should be, I mean, the Uzbekistan is being one of the hottest spots in not only in Central Asia but
Mhm.
around the world to be a very good place to invest in, and the
Mhm.
government has a will to do, and the international financials are here to support this initiative. So I think it's very promising. The future is very promising.
All right, all right. And how is since I've asked that question, can you highlight some of the challenges in regards to access to capital that private sector may be facing out there? Are there any specific challenges to Uzbekistan that you face in regards to having access to capital or investments or attracting investments from internationally?
Uh, I think I think there are two answers for your
Okay.
question. It's just the one is would be a pre-COVID situation, and the one is a post-COVID
Yeah,
situation.
yeah.
So, I mean, so investors are being like invest. I mean, because of COVID, investors are now more, in my opinion, they are becoming more risk averse. So
Hmm.
they try to examine the country situation very, very carefully before investing anything.
Hmm.
And that's why, I mean, in general, there is a shortage of investment going around the world. I think investment activity
Hmm.
decreased a lot. That was caused by the COVID.
Correct.
We hope that in coming 1 to 2 years at most, the
Mhm.
situation with COVID will be resolved when the investors will gain the trust on
Okay.
investment market and search for additional opportunities. And Uzbekistan is always here for them to
Okay.
be the hotspot. But in general, if you look to the even current situation in
Hmm.
Uzbekistan, that COVID didn't hit badly actually in
Okay.
infrastructure market of Uzbekistan. What I mean is that investors has still great interest in PPP projects.
Okay.
I will name energy. I will come back to
Can
energy
you
sector
highlight some
only. And
major PPP projects, Bahodir? I mean, some major PPP projects which are attracting investments in Uzbekistan?
I Uh, yeah, so I mean, there are a portfolio of projects with a total cost of about more than 10 billion. They can easily surpass $10 billion, but all of the projects are in different stages. So,
Okay.
it really depends what type of project you are asking about. If we ask about the projects that are in tender process already,
Mm-hmm.
a
Yeah.
majority of them are related either energy sector
Mhm.
or healthcare sector.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
since I have some information about that, I have some experience working in energy sector. I can say that we have that we are implementing World Bank scaling solar program with a
Okay.
capacity. I mean, with a capacity of 1 gigawatt. We
Mm-hmm.
already issued the. I mean, we already reached the commercial closure for 100 megawatt, and we are
That's great.
working for additional 400 megawatt capacity. And
Okay.
from the tender stage, from RFQ stage, request for qualification stage, we see that there are 84 companies express their interest, which means
Okay.
that the government is being relatively interesting for investment despite all of the facts related with COVID and the global pandemic situation. If
Correct.
we take a look to other projects as well, like Sharabat Solar, I mean, this is also 1 gigawatt project, and we are starting with 200 megawatt pilot project. It's also attracted like more than 50, if I'm not mistaken, 54 international investors. And there's also wind IPPs. The government wants to try wind farms,
Okay.
construction of wind farms with the help of EBRD. So they started with a pilot project of 100 megawatt, and there are 70 companies expressed their interest for this project as well. And there's also in gas, there's also CCGT project in Sirdarya region, whose capacity is about up to 1.5 gigawatts. It's in Sirdarya CCGT project, combined cycled gas turbines. So we see in energy sector there is a large demand from investor side, and at the same time the government is preparing very large projects in road sector, like Tashkent Samarkand, whose length is 290 kilometers, and there's all Tashkent Andijan road. It's whose length is also about 340 kilometers, and both of those is planned to be toll roads. First, PPP toll roads. So
that's great.
The cost is the cost will be very high, but we think that there will be enough interest from the market for those projects as well.
So what I'm understanding, Bahodir, is energy and transportation are two major areas which are seeing announcement of a lot of PPP projects. Along with that, they are also seeing attraction or interest by global investors and stakeholders and private sector participation. That's what I'm understanding from what you're telling me. How is healthcare, Bahodir?
Yes, regarding the healthcare was, I mean, from the very start, it was very promising sector. The government is currently doing the tender for dialysis centers in Uzbekistan. So I have no much information about the project, but I know that there is also very much a lot of international companies from Germany, Italy expressed their interest in doing the project.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
and also, okay. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, my question, Bahodir, is that please, yeah.
No, I just want to add that there is also a very high demand for education as well. So
education,
there are some projects being initiated. Yeah, so like building schools, for example. So the government is working with the AGP in school construction project, and I think it's going to be a very promising project as well.
So it means what you're saying is that the education sector is just opening up for PPP projects. Is that
yes,
what I'm...
exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
Well, what I want to understand now is since it has been that what I'm understanding is so many projects are coming in. The outlook looks very positive, what you just mentioned about. How is Uzbekistan and the local leadership meeting the needs of capacity building or skill development? So is the government taking any initiatives, or how is it being managed out there with regards to skilling professionals for PPP projects?
Yeah, for sure. There are some agreements between the government of Uzbekistan and the international financial institutions where IFIs, including IFC, EBRD, and EGP, are providing capacity building support to train local specialists for PPP. So there is a APMG international program, on PPPs. So there are about 40 specialists took past the level 1, and about 20 passed the level 2. I think from capacity side, majority of specialists are already well informed from theoretical side. But as you know, as I mentioned to you, so being the PPP is a fairly new sector for Uzbekistan.
Okay.
So it takes time for specialists to practice the knowledge they got from theories. and
Okay.
only after that they're gonna be like very professionals in their
Correct.
fields. So I mean, even though I was also I also took part in those programs, and
Mhm.
theoretically I read the textbook and passed the exam and
Mhm.
etc. But when it comes to practice,
Mhm.
you can learn something new that was not written in the
Yes,
book. So
absolutely.
so
I agree on that.
both of them are crucial in capacity
Yes.
building. So it takes time. I mean, yeah, in
Okay.
general,
Okay.
yes,
So, I mean, the government is quite proactive with regards to training and
yes,
upskilling
definitely, definitely,
young
definitely,
graduates in regards to
yes.
joining them in the PPP workforce. Well, glad to know that. My last question to you, in context to our interaction, is you are an experienced professional. You have experience on both the ends, the government as well as now working with a financial advisory firm. What would be your learnings or experiences that you would like to share with our global viewers who are targeting Uzbekistan as a market to participate in PPP projects? So any recommendations, any specifics that you would like to share based on your experiences with us?
So from experience wise, it's difficult to make any judgment yet, because there is no successful project that was implemented from the very beginning
Mm,
till the end of the project. So it's
correct.
all of the projects are pretty much in different stages, but if you took a general look, they're in the initial stages of
Mhm, mhm.
being implemented. So uh, what I think is we are still developing country, and
Okay.
we have to the government have to bear the consequences of the PPP projects.
Okay.
What I think is that, of course I don't want it, but in case even so there will be any a little bit failures in the beginning. I mean,
Mhm.
couple of failures in PPP should not stop the government from pursuing the
Yes.
PPP further.
Yes.
Of course, there should be success stories, but
Mhm,
everything comes with an experience, right?
mhm,
What I mean is, if you look to the international experience, there are some
mhm,
countries which
mhm.
implemented the PPP, but gave them time like 1 to 2 years, and after seeing no desired result, they just stopped the PPP. But
Mhm,
after 5 to 10 years, they are already coming back to the PPP. I mean, the
mhm.
PPP topic, and they are reopening, reintroducing the PPP into the
Yes,
economy.
yes.
So they're just losing some time
Mhm.
between, you know. So
Yes,
that's why what I think is that government should be ready to bear any consequences of PPP failures,
correct,
embrace
correct.
the achievements, and
Yes.
all the time support the PPP. I mean,
Mm.
of course, it depends on the analytics. I mean, after learning deeply the importance of PPP into the economy. But what I think is that due to the fact that there is a huge demand for infrastructure projects,
Mhm.
PPP is one of the things that we currently need.
Yes,
Of course, there are some developed country cases where they do not need PPP anymore because their traditional procurement system or public procurement system is already advanced. I
correct.
mean, they may claim that they do not need PPP, but
I know.
for developing countries, including us, I mean, we need PPP. So the government
Absolutely.
should always support the initiative. Once it decided to implement the PPP, it should support the decision further till the end.
I agree with your
There
point.
should be no end, actually.
One thing that I liked is definitely there should be room for failures because it is but natural, Bahodir. I mean, a complex project and a big project of the nature of a PPP, there are chances sometimes it may fail, but that failure should not be a stumbling block in regards to achieving our national vision agendas or the goals that the government looks forward to take. But one thing, as P3 World Council, one of the objectives that we always keep is cross pollination of ideas, opportunities, and best practices. And that's why what you mentioned is correct, Bahudir. Though Uzbekistan is an emerging economy, the progress that it has made in the past 2 years in context to PPPs and what you mentioned, the government's role in regards to making the projects more bankable and earning the trust of international financial institutions, this is something that others definitely have a lot to learn from, for countries who are struggling, or who are countries who are just looking forward to set up and welcome PPP projects. So that's something that is worth learning. And yes, there should be room for failures, because when we fail, that is what gives us lessons, and those lessons can be some great learnings for others as well. That's what I personally feel. One thing that I would want to ask you before we close on this session is that P3 World Council, we've been sharing a lot of content on a platform. I mean, your just a short feedback about, hope the content is valuable. How have you found it? Where we need to improve on? Just a few words on that.
In Uzbekistan
No,
case.
no, no. P3 World
Right?
Council on LinkedIn platform, that we are sharing some content on the LinkedIn
Oh
page.
yeah. So yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
actually, I have read some interviews with other countries, relative government authorities. There was a minister of education. There was a head of unity.
Yeah.
There was a head of PPP unit. Actually, the thing that your initiative in general is very interesting, and I really liked the idea, because there is a whole room for exchange of ideas between the countries, because the cases that one country experience might be a good lesson for another country.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we can learn from each other and do
Correct.
not repeat the maybe mistakes done by one country. So that, I mean,
That's
in general, I really appreciate your initiative, Peace Rule Council, and
Thank you.
I just wish you all the best in your future endeavors. And I really believe that the council will develop into a
Yes.
multi-thousand platform where the
Absolutely.
officials from other countries, and as well as users who are interested in learning the PPPs,
Yes.
will only grow in terms of number and quality.
No, that's
Thank you.
what we have planned, Bahodir. I mean, next year, once the markets open up, we are coming up with some massive plans to reach out to stakeholders to, empower emerging economies in regards to PPP projects. And yes, with regards to Uzbekistan, we can certainly assure that we are there. If in case the local leadership or your organization needs some support and help in regards to global markets, P3 World Council is always committed to help in all the way possible. So we would definitely love to partner and collaborate with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Bahodir. And on behalf of all our viewers, my team at P3 World Council, I would like to really thank you for taking some time out of your busy schedule, sharing the views and sharing such a beautiful perspective of Uzbekistan PPP projects. We shall be in touch, and certainly if we have anything with regards to Uzbekistan, we would be more than happy to get in touch with you. I would like to wish you all the
Thank you.
best, and also a safe economic recovery for Uzbekistan. Stay safe and stay healthy.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Harshal. I wish you the same, to be healthy, and I wish you all the best in your future endeavors.
Thank you.
Take care
Thank
and
you,
stay
Bahodir.
safe.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.